Now let's focus our attention on data flow source adapters. Now these can confuse you. When somebody's brand new to this interface, it kind of confuses them, and I want to point it out here. First of all, I'm going to right click and create a connection manager, and I'll do an OLADB connection. And when this opens up, we'll just choose one we've already got here, AdventureWorks 2012 1. And I'll just take that one. And so that one's out here. Now notice when I drag a data flow task onto my control flow workspace there, and then double click that data flow task, that is going to take me out to the data flow tab, right? And let me try one more time. And I should be able to double click. Never mind, my mouse is acting goofy, so I love live demos, right? So anyway, from the control flow, normally I can right click that, hit edit, and it'll take me to that page, or I can just go to that page, or I should be able to double click. Don't let me confuse you there. Now notice I have a connection manager, and this gives me my connection to my database, but still, to start a data flow task I need to set a source. So I need to go into the table, the query, the whatever. Now there are two ways I can do this here. Right up here, this source assistant is the data flow source adapter. Now there's a couple of ways to get these, all right? I can either use that source assistant, or I can choose the source adapter from right down here toward the bottom. Understand, there's not a lot of difference in these. If I drag a source assistant on here, notice it says, okay, what do you want to do? You want to connect to SQL, Excel, flat file, or Oracle. And if I do any of these, notice I've got to create a connection manager because I don't have anything doing that. But on SQL Server, I do have this connection manager out there, and I can just click OK. And then I can come back in here and right click and edit this and tell it what specific table that I want to connect to. Okay? And so I'll cancel that off, and I'm going to right click this and then just delete it. So that was using the source assistant. Now if I come down here under sources, these are all source adapters, and I can choose OLADB from here and just drag it on, and then right click this and edit. It takes me to the same place. Now I can choose the table or the view that I want to connect to, and then I can actually preview that, right? I could have done that before on the other one using the assistant up there, and then I can see the columns that are out there. Notice right here I can choose the columns that I want to have included here, okay? And then that's the only columns that are going to be transferred in that. Which one of these do you want to use? That is absolutely totally up to you, whichever one you like. But I do want to show you one other thing. If I like this OLADB source right here, notice I can right click on this and say move to favorites, and then it took it out down here and it moved it up here so that it's always up here for me. Notice in my favorites section. And also notice I can expand and contract these, okay, if I would like. If I don't want that there, I can move it back down to other sources, and it'll put it right back down here where I got it from, okay? So I can move these around as I see fit, but understand the connection manager gives me the connection to the database, and then either the source assistant or the other data source, data flow source adapters. Let me say that right. Data flow. Notice I'm in data flow. Source adapters kind of hone in. They take the connection to the database, and then we add to that information the actual table or view that we're going to run. Then notice up here I can choose table or view. I can choose table or view name variable, a SQL command, and I can just type a SQL command. Or notice I can even build a query from here and go back out to the old favorite access tool and build this thing just like before graphically. So I can add a table here. I can add that in. Just double click that and it'll add that table. And then notice I can just start to click things and it will build my Transact SQL for me down here. Okay. So anyway, that's the deal with these things. Don't let it confuse you. Don't let it throw you. The connection manager gives you the connection to the data source, and either your source assistant, okay, or your other sources down here will let you go in here and start to tweak and actually set the source, be it a query, bit of table, a view, whatever, to make the connection to your data source to begin to move data around. Okay, so that is a quick look at your data flow source adapters. And before I leave you, let me point out one thing that you need to do as well. Notice if I click on this ADL.NET data source, it tells me what's going on down here. It consumes data from SQL Server using the corresponding .NET Framework provider. If I hit CDC source, it explains that one to me. It's changed data from a SQL Server change table. Excel, I can connect to Excel workbooks. A flat file source, it reads a text file. And then let me say one thing about this raw file source right quick. A raw file saves something in binary. Now, it's probably not a good time to talk about it on source, but really you usually start with these on destination. If I've got some data that I've extracted and I need to save it and use it just a few minutes later in a package, I can use this raw file source. It saves it in an SSIS format in just raw binary. It's very quick, very efficient, and so that's why you'll see this raw file source and destination out here. Okay, so that's a quick look and a little bit of description on your data flow source adapters.